Well, welcome everyone to our quarterly users group meeting for Data Vault North America. We've got a new sponsor that we'll be introducing today, Data Vault, Data De Facto. So let me go ahead and get started. The first thing I do when we open up these our quarterly meetings is just to do a quick recap of what Data Vault is. Some people are coming in, they don't know what it is, they've never heard of it, they're curious, and that's why they came in. So let me just give you a real quick recap of what the Data Vault actually is. It is a system of business intelligence containing these necessary components that are needed to accomplish enterprise vision in data warehousing and information delivery. So Data Vault is an entire solution for building or implementing an enterprise-wide like data analytics solution. All right. There are three pillars in Data Vault 2. The pillars are what I call the why of the solution. The first pillar is methodology, which is foundational to the overall solution. It's where we get the consistent, repeatable, pattern-based conceptual standards and architectural and modeling aspects of the solution. The methodology is also where we get the implementation guidelines. And these are what I call the how or how-to regarding the build and the implementation of the solution. So it's the methodology and the implementation aspects specifically of the methodology that separate Data Vault from a framework, right? A framework will tell you what you need. It does not tell you how to build, right? So we say the Data Vault is a methodology, first and foremost. The second pillar is the architecture, not just a system architecture, but a process and a people architecture. Think of teaming, all right? The third pillar is the model, but again, we're not just talking about a data model, we're talking about a process model and a people model as well, right? So all three pillars are inclusive of people, process, and technology. So the data model, which most people are familiar with, makes up less than 20% of the overall solution. It is first and foremost a logical model. It may be physically instantiated as hubs, links, and satellites, but not necessarily. So your physical model may be different from your logical model. And the benefits and the attributes of a Data Vault solution at the enterprise level include things like the fact that it's business focused, it's agile, it's auditable, it's affordable, fault tolerant, pattern based. You can read all of these things, scalable, resilient. So that is really what Data Vault brings to the table right out of the box without you having to think twice. So that's Data Vault, and we're going to get into the rest of our program. So today we're going to be hearing from Nols Ebersohn with Ignition Data. Nols will be presenting on the power of continuous integration in data analysis from a business perspective. Again, Data Vault is always business focused, right? So, and integration is key to everything we're doing within the enterprise. We're going to hear from Dan's words of wisdom. We're going to hear from our sponsors, take a 5-minute break halfway through the program, and then Ignition Data is going to present their Iris automation tool. So that's going to be interesting for a bunch of folks that have never seen that. We'll take a 10-minute break, Q&A, and then we are going to draw our prizes. We drew prize winners yesterday, and so we're going to announce all of our prize winners and what your prize is and from which of our sponsors you'll be receiving that. So let's go ahead. I'll talk real quickly. The board, we have 2 open positions. I'm going to solicit for open positions here. We have 2 open positions on our board. We lost 2 board members due to some personal issues and family emergencies. And so we do have the event planning vice president seat and the technology services seats open and available. So if anyone is interested, we would love to hear from you. I'm the president. My name's Cindi Meyersohn. I've got the round to run the board this period of time. Mary Mink started us off and was part of the resultant foundational group that started this whole group in the first place. We have Jim Freyer as our treasurer. Sam Bendayan is our VP of marketing. Pavitra, forgive me, I'm not going to be able to pronounce your last name without killing it, so forgive me. But She's our secretary. I wouldn't be able to have any board meetings or minutes or anything without her. Noel Cruz is our dynamic voice. he's our head of membership services. All right, and he's with us today. And so again, we have 2 open seats on the board. If anyone's interested, we would love to hear from you. So I'm going to start off. I'm going to introduce, well, I'm going to talk about Nols for a second. I've known Nols for a while, quite a while actually. Nols is a highly experienced consultant. He's been in the consulting area in IT and probably, I would say, various hats over the years. Nols, you can agree or disagree, but he's run quite a few things. And he has been a certified Data Vault instructor for, I don't know what, 7, 8 years or longer, right?
Correct.
Something like that, yeah. And so he's an excellent trainer. He trains for Ignition Data and has been in our, I would say, our family of, Data Vault practitioners and trainers for quite some time. So he's going to be talking today about his experience also in continuous integration. So Nols, I'm going to let you take it in just a second. We're going to run in and meet with our have our sponsors up. So Pavitra, I think you're driving this piece of it, correct? Or do you want me to drive and you're going to? Never mind. I'll just go forward. Sorry. So we're going to hear from our first of our 5 first sponsors for this group. So we're going to have Benoit talking to us from De facto. So Benoit, I'll go ahead and take it away.
Thank you, Cindy. Hi, everyone. I'm Benoit from the company De facto. So far, De facto is the only company that actually passed the tool certification from the Data Vault Alliance. We rebranded our product end of last year, which is now named BVault. BVault is a Data Vault automation platform that actually handles everything from the ETL to the raw vault, business vault, till the production of the information marts. All the interface is being handled in no code. You can actually code also data quality element and the business vault. What sets us apart from the crowd, I would say, is that the platform is actually really designed to handle the changes in your organization. May it be adding new data sources, changing business rules, but also in the way you can manage business key in the Data Vault.
Thank you very much, Benoit, and welcome. They're our newest sponsor, so thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
So I'm up next. So I am also I am president of Data Rebels. I'm a little discombobulated today, so you guys just bear with me. Sorry about that. So Data Rebels, I'm also an authorized instructor for Data Vault 2. We also do workshops. We'll run a 4-hour workshop and actually sort of customize what you need for getting your team moving. It's more of a coaching type of service that we provide. We also do something called a Kickstart. A Kickstart is basically it's a 10-day heads down type implementation where we train your team for the first 3 days. We'll take them through the Data Vault certification. And then the following 7 days, what we do is we'll take them through an actual build. We'll have a well-scoped build, and we'll get you from start to finish in 7 days for a very small scope. So that is basically what a Kickstart does. It gives you an opportunity to do train your team up and then get the team working together for their Data Vault solution. So it's more hands-on, extended time with Dan and I, and so that's what the Kickstart does. We also do some consulting, on a longer term basis, but more or less we're focused on Kickstarts, training, and workshops. Okay, so that's what Data Rebels does. I'll just say I'm also involved with Women in Data. which is something that I'm kind of near and dear to my heart. And then we also are involved. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for Data Vault Alliance. So I work very closely with Dan, which is a lot of fun. So wearing a lot of hats. And then anyway, love to hear from you. And so let's move on. Okay, Paul. Is he with us, Paul Kinnear, yet?
I don't believe I saw him. I was looking for
Okay.
him earlier.
He hasn't gotten in yet. Okay, so Eon Collective is one of our sponsors. I'm not going to cover his slide. Paul can do that. So I'm sorry we missed him, but let me move on. All right, Patrick.
Hey guys, thank you, Cindi. My name is Patrick Howler, and I'm a solutions architect with Warescape. Warescape's a software company that's been around since about 25 years, and we develop tools for helping automate designing, developing, deploying, building data warehouses, including data vaults. We do have a specific data vault solution, but I spent some time trying to go through the Wayback Machine and look and find out what's the first reference I can find where someone was using Warescape to build a data vault. And it goes back to 2009. So it's been 16 years that we've been working with Data Vault, working with Dan, working with Data Vault Alliance in helping people really accelerate the way at which they can, as I said, they can build a data vault, raw vault, business vault, semantic view on top of it through automation. There's a lot of benefits for automation, obviously. But I'll just leave it at that and say, hey, if you want to check us out at warescape.com, if you're interested in learning more about Data Vault or just data warehouse automation in general, please check us out. And I'm happy to be here.
Thanks, Patrick. Okay, ER Studio.
Hey everyone, my name is Ryan Hirsch, and I am the product marketing manager for ER Studio, which is the premier enterprise data modeling suite to help you design, build, and manage your organization's data architecture. So how do we do this? Well, we model the entire enterprise. So we'll provide the logical and physical data modeling tools so that you can blueprint and construct your entire data management system. We connect to all data sources, so from Oracle to SQL Server, Snowflake, and Databricks. We ensure seamless support for all the major databases. We establish and integrate governance. So we offer key governance features such as a data catalog to ensure compliance and standardization. We're also the only enterprise modeling tool that's fully integrated with the top government platforms such as Calibra and Microsoft Purview. We help align your business and technical stakeholders. Through our conceptual data models, ER Studio bridges that gap between your organization's departments and your IT teams, really to connect those business requirements with your data. We also offer a multi-user repository as well as an online portal so your teams can share their progress, documentation, and collaboration. And then support modern innovations. We are built to handle all the most recent and advanced data modeling approaches, including medallion architecture, data mesh, and of course, data vaults. As a matter of fact, we did recently just release some wizards and macros to help automate the modeling of your data vault. We do this by creating intelligent hubs from your business models. We'll then automatically generate fully structured satellites to link to those hubs. And then we can also offer built-in data lineage and model synchronization to help you visualize data flow, manage changes, and generate scripts. So we always like to do the analogy of building a home. So just as an architect's going to build a blueprint to construct buildings, we provide that framework to design, manage, and standardize your data with precision. So if you'd like to know more about us, please feel free to visit erstudio.com. Thanks for your time.
Thank you very much, Ryan. And welcome. This was your maiden voyage here.
It was, yeah. I'm glad to be here.
Glad to have you.
Thank you.
All right. You should be able to share.
Hopefully that's coming through all right.
Yes.
Excellent. Well, thank you for giving me the opportunity to have a chat to you guys. And so it's great to sort of see some of the old familiar faces and nice to meet all of the new faces as such. So, excuse me, trying to get the frog out of my throat to to continue. So as far as the presentation is going to be, there's a continuous integration in analytics have a particularly powerful effect. As just a bit of an introduction of myself, I'm a principal architect at Ignition Data. I'm also an authorized trainer, and thank you for the kind words to introduce me, Cindi, much appreciated. But today we're going to chat a little bit about the curious element that drives business engagement, and it's called progress. And so we're going to look a little bit into the psychology of progress, because that's going to help us to see how the business is motivated and how they view the programs or expect from programs like information and analytics delivery. And then we'll look at some of the success factors that play into that progress element with the business. And we'll look at some of the benefits that Data Vault offers, some of the architectural success factors, and then also in a bit more detail in the continuous integration, continuous deployment genre as to what it offers as such. We'll show a couple of examples, and then as we go through, you're welcome to have any questions along the way. So without further ado, let's unpack the psychology of progress. And it's an interesting thing because we've been looking at progress for a while. So Harvard did a research study conducting a multi-year day-to-day activities study in what the emotions, the motivation levels of hundreds of knowledge workers were in a wide variety of settings. And they wanted to answer the fundamental question, what drives motivation within the business? And they found that the top motivator of performance was progress. Now, progress is a curious thing. As we can see from the quotes on the screen, no man can stand still. The moment progress is not made, retrogression begins. If the blade is not kept sharp and bright, the law of rust will assert its claims. Now, as an amateur bladesmith, and in the background, the law of rust, I do understand that quite well. So there is an interesting dynamic here that we've got progress from our first quote here, that there's a level of entropy involved. And so it's not a static thing. There's also some risk associated with progress, because as Brian McGill mentioned, a person who makes few mistakes makes little progress. And so by looking at those elements, it's very interesting to see that the risks do manifest for us. It's also interesting that Nels Ebersohn has an interesting take on it. If the necessity is the mother of invention, urgency is the uncle of change, and without these, progress slows and then stops and then reverses. And so we need to think outside the box when we engage, and we need to use the power of progress for us to further understand what engages a business on an ongoing basis. One of the things that we get from some of the publishers around progress, and so Claire Routledge is an existential psychologist. That's quite an impressive title. And he mentions that the progress, although important, you need to bring particular friends. It likes the friends of curiosity, openness, creativity, resilience, and motivation. And so these elements all play into the engagement with business, and we need to make sure that we track these. Now, fortunately, it is not that hard to measure progress, but progress has both a retrospective or empirical component to it, and also a futuristic or speculative component to it. So the past successes helps to motivate on the potential future implementation of it. And so that statement, when you look to the future, do you see progress or do you see decline, is speculative as to what to expect for the future. Now, there's one thing that we know that our businesses don't like, and that's surprises. And the surprises that we want to avoid are obviously the bad surprises, but it's one of those things that we do need to keep that in mind. So a business then views this progress in this ever-expanding analytical capability. So they expect to see changes and progress. But they also need empirical evidence of the progress. And this is where your practices around continuous integration, continuous deployment really helps, because nothing says progress than things appearing in production. And so the business are measuring essentially the progress that we have in that production instance. And this is where the evidence for that becomes very important. The other element that we need to look into it is that your business will remain engaged if the future has the possibility for success. And this is where really we want to start leveraging patterns, because patterns allow us to both accelerate and also to guarantee that the product will be of acceptable high quality. Now, all of these items are fantastic, but we still need to be able to look at the components of, as Cindi quite nicely introduced us with the definition of Data Vault, that we need the people, process, and technology components. So from a process perspective, having something like data mesh around that helps us to give us a model of operation, rapid prototyping and test-driven development as far as we go from a technology approach. And then, of course, the continuous integration, continuous deployment, giving us that future guarantee as we are basing that on the existing elements. Because our business users are a cynical lot. Let's be fairly clear about this, because, and rightly so, because many promises have been made in the past and not necessarily have eventuated. So we need that empirical evidence, the past progress, to help us to build an expectation of success to move forward. So this is where the business measures and also motivates the perception of progress within a program. And so how do we achieve this? How do we then help the business to understand or have a successful image in their mind of progress? This is the mechanisms of success that we're going to explore a little bit further. We've got patterns. And as we know from a Data Vault perspective, we have the three components of information that remains consistent irrespective of the source of that information. You will always have business keys, the identifying elements. You will always have relationships because they express your business process correlation between those business keys. And of course, you have the descriptive detail that help you to describe it. And so those patterns for our information design, we need to explore a little bit further. We also need to make sure that we have an appropriate architectural pattern. And I'm going to specifically focus in on some of the areas where the business will typically struggle most and where progress would be most apparent. And then we'll also look at our deployment and development practices. How do we test? How do we deploy? And so we bring these particular patterns to the problem so that we can get a reliable input to that. As part of a bit of a context and a recap, we do, however, need to look at the nature of the beast, the thing that we are working with, and this is the thing that we call information. And this definition is supplied by defined by Professor Werner Gitt. He used to be the head of technology and information at the German State University. And so this is the scientific definition of information. And why is this relevant? Well, it's interesting that for us to be able to have anything called data or information, we need some building blocks. Firstly, we need some sort of code base. And so the alphabet is our code base. We need to be able to have that code base used in a reliable set of patterns. We call that syntax. And so essentially, we have the building blocks of data approaching. But of course, in this context, it's not useful if there's not somebody that has an intention for it and somebody that is consuming it. So understanding that these elements make up data and we can recognize them because they are readily recognizable in the artifacts that we look at, but that's not enough. And so the necessary context needs to also be applied to that data, where we have the meaning of it, And so the action or the purpose of those elements need to be available too. So you need those layers to make that information, to provide the context. Now, the interesting thing about the context is it can't be more business rules, because where does your information come from? You could reasonably say it comes from a source system, fair enough, but that is too vague. You can then also say, well, within the source systems, we have our business processes that have been implemented, and they consist of a bunch of steps that are correlated or sequenced in a particular manner. And that is great, but it's like saying how long is a piece of string? It's the distance between the start and the end. So how do we actually get to the brass tacks of this? And this is where we get down to the steps within the business processes, and they are implemented as business rules. Therefore, our data that we see on our element here is basically the evidence of our business rules within our application. And so then to understand the context of that, you need to then add, why are we having it? Where will we be using it? Who owns it? Where does it come from? And so that's good to see that your sponsors in the user group has those kind of capabilities readily available. The combination of that context and data then means that we have the thing called information. It needs to be extensive, and it is a complicated definition because the nature of the beast can be complicated. So how does this then play into our patterns and our business expectations? Well, if we can start to leverage the patterns of Data Vault, where we have our business keys, which we typically store in hubs, our relationships we typically store in links, and descriptive details that goes to satellites, we do uniquely something in Data Vault that is really hard, if not impossible, to do in other approaches, in that we can track and describe our relationships effectively. And that's the secret sauce for the business, because the business always thinks in terms of their business processes. And so having that overview across the business processes through the relationships are extremely important. So to bring a level of predictability, remember, we have to have the empirical evidence to give the assurance of future progress. We need that predictability, and this is where the information design, the components, really help to drive that perception as such. It also reduces risk. We did see through our quotes that we had before, right, that there is an element of risk involved in getting progress done. And so this helps to address and allay some of the risk that business may perceive that goes with progress. And so being able to expand and continue with the Data Vault and add to it without incurring unnecessary re-engineering is a key enabler for this to occur for the business. So they perceive the progress and the risk, they weigh that up, and they hopefully get the sense that they will have what they need for the future. Of course, this is always enabled by some sort of architecture. This is an extremely simplified architectural pattern, but in broad terms, that holds true. You need your information to eventually land in the warehouse environment. You need to have both the raw information and the derived information fully historized, because you're making decisions on it, right? And so you need the evidence for that decision to be available. And of course, you need to expose it in due course. The area where the business typically struggles most is in the area where there are, in fact, business rules that need to be introduced. And as we already seen, that business rules can only produce more data. It's actually good news, because the patterns to manage our data assets are already established in a good automation framework that helps to drive the Data Vault design to fruition. Of course, we find that metadata is now a mandatory and a critical success factor in all of these approaches, from a technical perspective, for configuration, for lineage, for governance. And so these elements are fundamental to help to secure it. And this is why we can go from data in our Data Vault to information in our information delivery, in that the context is there, in who needs to use it, what they are using it for, what the definitions for it is, and so that information then becomes readily accessible and to the expectation of our businesses. There's a quick example, and you'll see some of this being demonstrated a little bit later today, where you need some sort of mechanism to help leverage the patterns that Data Vault offers. So we've talked about the nature of the beast, so we need to deal with that. You can try to fight against it, but you'll lose, and so you need to understand the nature of the beast. We then need to understand how do we use the patterns to give us the necessary delivery components. And then we need to look at the practicalities of the processes that help demonstrate, create the necessary production artifacts that helps you to prove to the business that progress is indeed being achieved. This is a fairly typical perspective using the Azure processes here as a proxy for what you would generally want to achieve. And there's always two aspects to what you need to deliver. There's always a storage or architectural component to it. And then there's the process or the jobs, the processes, the orchestration that needs to be facilitated. And you need to support the life cycle of those type of things. But the more you do this and the more automation helps you in achieving consistency, the shorter these cycles become. And that's exactly what the business is after. You need to be able to have basically the ability to manage both your storage and also, of course, your processes that leverage all of those items in a typical CI/CD process. As far as the testing components are concerned, that's very important. In particular, we need to consider not just the necessary steps and tests to make sure you've got a decent Data Vault, but you also need to have the necessary steps and processes in place to help you to drive out the necessary business rules that are missing. Because let's face it, your data looks like Swiss cheese. It comes from your source system full of holes. Isn't that what Swiss cheese looks like? It has holes in it as such. And so we need to be able to plug those holes. And this is where Business Vault helps us to address those issues. But it's also posing some unique challenges on how it's tested as such. This is where techniques like test-driven development are very useful in helping your business, again, achieve some sort of pattern in how they can deliver on business rules, which ties into processes like data mesh very neatly because there's good ownership and oversight of those type of things from a business process perspective. So besides the usual testing of our Data Vault artifacts, we need to remember the testing associated with our business rules as well. These items flow through the life cycle from development to test to production, UAT in production in due course. And so again, since we have the power of patterns, we have the power, the patterns from an information design perspective, it really helps us to drive this out, which leads directly into an example of continuous integration, continuous deployment. Now, this may get a little bit more detailed and technical, but it's one of those items that we do need to make sure that we have in mind. Because as we have the artifacts that are consistent, it means our processes are consistent. So we start with a main branch of code that we can deal with. So this is the top half of our two-pronged approach to deployment. You need to have some sort, you need your main branch of code that everyone can synchronize to. And then you have a feature branch where we'll take this, develop this, and you can do this in a sandpit environment for a developer. And then they contribute it back to the general build. And at some point, you will have a promoting from the one environment to the next, but all of this becomes a lot more streamlined because every one of those patterns remains consistent. And so as the business becomes more familiar with the process and the evidence has built to the point they can trust the process even further, the necessity of injecting some approvals or rejections becomes less and less because the consistency of the product becomes so stable that the business is comfortable for it to progress without too much interference. And so if something then obviously finds an issue, it goes back down to the feature branch, it gets resolved, it is contributed back to the main branch of artifacts again, at which point it then can be published to the necessary production environments. So the evidence of the quality of the process will result in the product and the education and experience of the user base improving to the point that the trust in the process is achieved. Remember, we mentioned that the business is somewhat cynical, and that's fair, but we bring the necessary consistency in delivery that helps them to gain their trust in making sure that the changes flowing through are consistent with what they want. And so this is a little bit more detailed look, again, drilling into that process. The development work is complete. It is contributed to the branch, the main branch, essentially creating that combined results from all of the developers. The necessary pipelines and automation and test cases then are achieved once it's deployed to the next environment up. And so these standard development operations processes, DevOps processes, helps to drive those elements. Once you have a number of deployments from a release management perspective, you can pick those deployments that are ready and has been verified, at which point from a release manager perspective, you can then push that into production. You need to be able to accelerate this process and not just do it at, say, end of a sprint or end of a program increment. You should be able to do this on an incremental and progressive basis as and when it's ready. And so from this perspective, it helps to drive the necessary items, but it has to be complemented with your storage to follow along. Now, Snowflake, for instance, offers a number of really useful features in things like being able to clone the data without making a copy. And so your cycle for preparation for a feature development is considerably truncated. Not only that, you can actually take your development activities and make that available by cloning it into other environments so that you can have a rapid flow through your necessary deployments across the board. You see, at the end of the day, as we are progressing and deploying to production, the moment we actually get to our production end element, we are providing the evidence of the progress. This is where we sometimes fail to complete the task, because the task is not just about getting it in production. The task is about publishing and going to the business and say, hang on, all of these new things have gone there. Unfortunately, as a general rule, since we have a more technical bent, we tend not to market our successes as well as we should. And so this is an opportunity that we need to take the evidence that we've gathered with the actual artifacts in our production and publish and market our successes to the business so that the business perception of progress, the future perspective of progress is satisfied. And you have the empirical evidence to back that up in that you have the facts, all of the deployments readily available to you. And this is how we both keep our business engaged, but this is how they perceive progress. That is how they continue the programs and the funding. And so the understanding of how progress plays into the continuous integration, continuous deployment features as such as an overall approach is really, really important. So progress, however, needs friends. And so from a progress perspective, progress and patterns are a match made in heaven. Because if you understand what delights your business, then you'll be able to display progress. And so the thinking around how we approach the problem helps to build the understanding of the business mindset and therefore how to delight them. We also bring the predictability into the process. We bring in the stability of regular, consistent, high quality delivery. And so your continuous integration approaches help to drive that opinion within the business. And here's the challenge we face. the business is allowed to bring an opinion. We're only allowed to bring facts. And so the facts are demonstrated by the fact that we've got the evidence of the successes. And of course, your team needs to be set up for success, giving them the necessary patterns, the architectural, the information design, and the process success factors helps them to achieve this so that we have a productive and engaged business engagement. Any questions at this stage? While you ponder the questions, I may just hand it back to Cindi. Happy to have the questions come up a little bit later as well. And I hope there was value from that presentation for you in understanding the psychology of progress and how that is facilitated in due course.
Thank you very much, Nols. I'm sure. Wait a minute. I'm just checking to see if we have any other. We got thank you for the presentation. Great presentation. So you've gotten kudos here. Any questions as you're going through? We do have time for Nols to answer some questions. And Nols, we'll have maybe 10 minutes at the end. And so we may address those as well. Okay?
No problem. Thank you.
Perfect. So we are going to move, let me get my slide up again. We are going to move to Dan's words of wisdom. Dan.
Yep.
You're on.
All right. Well, today you're not only going to hear from me, I have the luck of having my good friend Scott Ambler on with me as well to talk a little bit about CI/CD. And I've been through some of his training courses recently, and I got to tell you, he knows what he's talking about. So you should listen to Scott. If I had any words of wisdom, that's what they would be today. But I went looking around, and based on my experience as well as what I could find, the number one mistake, at least from my perspective, that teams make in data warehousing and BI, especially in the data vault methodology, is that they don't have a clear understanding of what CI, CD, or continuous integration, continuous deployment really is, what it entails, and how to properly implement it inside of the methodology. So especially in the context of big data systems or data systems across enterprises, global enterprises, split enterprises where you've got multiple teams. So a lot of these teams, they start their journey without a solid grasp of the core concepts. They don't really understand what they're doing. And I hate to say it, I've said it so many times before, that training, at least some basic intro level training, even if it's 2 hours of trying to sit down and understand exactly what CI/CD is and how it applies to your methodology and your organization and your ways of working, I think that's absolutely critical, even if it's a free class. Now, you got to be careful, right? Free classes, you get what you pay for. That's kind of the take there. So you got to be careful. But I think the biggest thing there, once you get past the methodology and some basic understanding, is there's an oversight, right? The team or you folks don't get together to create a structured plan with clearly defined goals and processes for each stage of CI/CD, even at a high level. I think that's important. So the planning oversight can cause your teams to rush into automation without a strategic approach, leading to chaotic implementation and missed deadlines, scope creep, and all of that. So Scott, I'm sure you've got some words on that. Do you want to talk a little bit? You've got about 2-3 minutes left on this.
Okay. Yeah, thanks for inviting me. Nols, first of all, thanks for the presentation. This was fantastic. I just agreed with everything you said. It was awesome. Thank you. Yeah, I think I think both Nols and Dan have said it well. I'm struggling to add anything of value here, but one of the I just have to agree with what Dan said. I think there's a lot of opportunity for data teams to adopt what is frankly very common DevOps practices such as CI/CD, and like the developers have been doing this for a long time. A lot of data teams are still sort of behind on this, and to be fair, it is a bit harder in the data space because we have to worry about persistent data, and that's generally not that big of an issue for the developers, like just if you're writing an application code or whatever. So all the stuff Nols was talking about, like automated testing, continuous database integration, continuous database deployment, are a tad harder than what the Agile developers will often tell you. So there's a learning, so it's great to work with them. It's to get help with setting this good stuff up and learning how to do it. But it's also a learning opportunity for them because they often don't appreciate the complexities faced by the data folks. So I thank you for once again for delivering this presentation, because this is a very important topic that does not get enough airspace in my mind. So it's very good to see these Agile data techniques being spread to the rest of the world. Thank you.
Absolutely. I want to thank Nols too. It was a fantastic presentation and spot on. But Scott didn't do justice to his own little spiel there, because his class covers a number of these ways of working in terms of how the team can be working in a CI/CD continuum, and how it should be done with just enough knowledge and just enough information. So with that, thank you, Scott. Thank you, Nols. It's awesome. Keep up the great work.
Well, up first, we're going to come back around to Eon Collective with Paul Kinnear. I saw that he joined online. So, Paul, out to you.
Hi, all. My name is Paul Kinnear. I'm the Director for Data Vault Solutions at Eon Collective. Eon Collective is a data warehouse, data modernization, data governance company. We're based all around the world. We're a collection of data professionals that specialize in these different areas. I have a small team of certified Data Vault practitioners that go to different organizations that are in search of learning Data Vault. We try to implement and teach our clients of the Data Vault 2.0 methodology and best practices. We are partnered with many of the different vendors that you see here, and also certified within their own softwares. We like to lead our clients to achieve success. And just as Nols was mentioning in his presentation, it's all about building yourself up for success, working together towards success. And so that's my gist. Very, very happy to be here. Thank you so much. If you would like to talk to me about working with Eon Collective and our different partners on your Data Vault journey, please reach out to me, paul.kinnear@eoncollective.com. Would love to speak with you, and good to see everybody in the community.
Thank you, Paul.
Yeah, thank you very much, Paul. Up next, we have listed a resultant with Gammon Rodriguez. Excuse me. But I don't see Gammon on here. Gammon, speak up if you are. Otherwise, we'll move forward with Vault Speed. Jeffrey Soretsky. Jeff, are you on?
Yes, I am. And thanks, Noel.
Yeah.
I am so jealous of your voice. All right. That being said, my name's Jeff Soretsky, and I work for Vault Speed. We're based in the New York City area, and I'm very excited and proud to be a sponsor of Data Vault North American Users Group. So what is Vault Speed? Vault Speed, in a nutshell, it's a SaaS offering, and we basically help you build and maintain a data vault. It really shouldn't, in an automated way, it shouldn't feel like a never-ending manual effort. So we take the heavy lifting off your plate, automate everything from model generation to deployment, so you can focus on delivering trusted, AI-ready data. So we're built on certain pillars here that make this very advantageous to use our software. So it's no-code modeling, pre-tested templates, and we have it built in to accommodate schema drift. So basically, your hubs, links, and satellites are always going to be aligned, even as your data changes. So we integrate seamlessly with Snowflake, Databricks, Fabric, Synapse, DBT, making automation easy, scalable, and platform agnostic. So with a new addition, a new feature, we have a template studio feature where you can actually visually design your business vault too. So previously we had visual design for your raw vault, but we've carried it through all the way to the business vault so you can do soup to nuts. And you'll spend less time fixing pipelines and more time delivering insight. Thank you.
Great job, Jeff. Thank you very much. And on next, Seven Rivers with John Steinbeck. John?
Can you hear me?
We can indeed.
All right. I'm John Steinbeck. We're formerly Performance G2, now Seven Rivers, where we focus on AI augmentation, if you will, and the use of Data Vault as well to help assist that AI. So it's looking good, it's fun, and looking forward to the future there. Thank you.
Thanks, John.
That's great, John. And finally, I don't know that he's online, but we have Luc Van Basselaere.
It's Karsten.
Karsten, welcome.
Thanks, Cindy. Thanks, Noel. Hello, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, perfect. Yeah, my name is Carsten Schweiger, and I'm happy to give you a very short introduction to Data Vault Builder. Data Vault Builder is a business-driven data warehouse automation tool. By standardizing and automating, we reduce implementation efforts on the IT side while increasing and delivering earlier value to business or any other data consumers. Or like Noel would say from last presentation, we accelerate progress. You can create the data model directly in the tool together with business and IT, fostering collaboration across all project participants and involving business users in the solution design right from the beginning. The data model captures requirements, documents the solution, and serves as a catalog of existing objects, helping you to showcase your solution to business users. Data Vault Builder also acts as an ETL tool. You can connect your sources, stage your data, and load it through all data warehouse layers. Following the Data Vault architecture, we support a very fast data absorption with full historization. And we offer flexible information delivery in custom formats like star model for data marts, third novel forms for application interfaces, flat tables for data analytics, data products in a data mesh environment, or prepare your data for AI use cases, or output it in any individual format. And the best part, everything is automated. Table creation, ETL pipelines, job orchestration, data lineage, documentation, and much more. Use our comprehensive API to integrate with third-party applications, generate models programmatically, automate CI/CD, or implement automated testing. With our Git integration, we support distributed development in large data engineering teams with feature branching. Thanks to our Docker-based deployment, you can host Data Vault Builder on-premises or in any cloud and easily set up additional environments whenever needed. We're proud that 94% of our customers report project success within just 6 months of introducing Data Vault Builder. If you're curious, just get your own free trial instance with the top right QR code and start exploring. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Karsten. I know it's late and you're ready to go to bed. Or have a beer, one or the other.
Soon go to bed, thanks.
Thanks, Karsten. All right. So we're going to take a 5-minute break, and we'll come back at 5:05.
And we are back. We saw that Gammon joined. So Gammon Rodriguez from Resultant will be presenting Resultant.
Yeah, thank you, Noel and Cindy. Apologies for hopping on late. I had some other responsibilities that popped up and I had to put out a couple fires, but happy to represent Resultant here again. Resultant, for those of you that aren't familiar, we're a data analytics and technology consulting firm. We like to sit in between technology and strategy because we like to mix in both to make sure that the technologies that we implement create business values. And one of the large areas that we focus on is Data Vault. So we're happy to partner with organizations like Wearscape. We have some of the biggest team of Wearscape and also Data Vault consultants on our team, or at least one of the largest organizations. So definitely something that we're heavily involved in and like to participate within the community. So if you're either exploring Data Vault projects or you're already in flight and need some guidance, we're always happy to have a conversation with you. Thank you.
Julian, just 1 second. I'm just going to go through your introduction slide real quick. So Julian Redman is going to be with us. He's the CEO of Ignition Data, and he is a Data Vault 2.0 certified practitioner. Yes, Julian. So anyway, Alexander Lay. Alexander, did I pronounce your last name correctly? Is it?
It's close. It's Lie, but that's totally
okay. Forgive me.
Yeah, and Alex is fine too.
Alex, all right. So Alex is the product manager of Iris, and they're going to present the Iris product to you. So let me, with no further ado, I'm going to turn the slideshow over to you. Okay, Alex, and stop sharing.
Yep, let me start that one off, hopefully.
Thanks, Cindi. And thanks for the intro. I think I'm probably the least technical person ever to pass the certification. So luckily I did it when it was a little less hard, I think. But and actually, just wanted to quickly point out to everyone that saw Nols's presentation that a fair bit of that content was actually used by Alex and Nols in a recent engagement for us down here in Australia. And that particular customer had 2 programs of work, both of them delivered well under time and under budget using that approach. So it's very effective if you can adopt that. And obviously one of our good customers, they'll be coming out as a case study shortly. So you'll probably in a month's time all know who I'm talking about, but I don't have permission to mention them just yet. So really appreciate the opportunity to talk a little bit about Iris. It is a solution that's gone through multiple iterations for us, but we'll quickly jump through the first couple of slides, Alex, just because we're reintroducing ourselves, which we don't really need to do. Cindy's helped us with that. So Iris started really as a consulting tool, I guess, as a lot of these different platforms did, and it was very much in the same space, I guess, as a lot of the other platforms, trying to provide an end-to-end platform that managed all of the parts of building and managing a data vault. But what we kind of realized and what we pivoted to, and I think hopefully you'll see a bit of differentiation, is we realized that actually the core of what we were doing was just data vault automation, and we wanted to make something that was a bit different, that really focused on helping people coming to Data Vault to do it as easily as possible, to make something that's really easy to grasp, that has a really simplified process, that really simplifies the maintainability, and that can actually integrate easily with other tools, because a lot of the sites we go in weren't necessarily interested in an end-to-end platform. They already had various tools that they had skills in or like to use. So we kind of, about 18 months ago, reimagined what the platform we had been working on could be, and pivoted Iris quite significantly. We'll jump to the next slide, Alex. So basically, we have access to Nols's big brain, and so we took that and some UI developers and the development team, and really looked at what could we do to actually simplify the process that would mean that we could really reduce the learning curve around the building of Data Vault code. So obviously you still need to go and do your certification. You still, like any modeling, like any Data Vault tool, Data Vault modeling skills are exceptionally important, and a good model is required. But the learning curve around getting up to speed on how to actually use the tool and how to implement it and all of those sorts of things, we look at how could we reduce that as much as possible, not just to make it easy to adopt the tool and get going quickly, but also to reduce the knowledge share when people move to different positions and those sorts of things, and try and actually help maintain that knowledge base through the business as time kind of moves on. And then obviously, like all automation solutions, to deliver consistent and reliable code, so you have a data vault that you can rely on. So what Iris actually is a data vault automation tool. So we don't call it a platform, and I'll talk a lot about kind of what it's not in a sec. But it's a data vault automation tool designed for cloud platforms. It actually comes with what we call the Iris Knowledge Hub, which is online training that comes free with the license, playbook to guide people through the process that really reinforces the learning that gets delivered through the Data Vault certification training, and actually reinforces how to implement that using the Iris tool. There's tips and tricks, and there's a community page in the Knowledge Hub as well to try and help support users. It's all about trying to get people to have success with Data Vault as quickly as possible. It supports governance and testing and all of those sorts of things because it is very metadata driven. And then, as I pointed out before, the goal was really to create a simplified process with a really intuitive UI to reduce the barrier of entry to Data Vaults. We'll jump to the next slide. So one of the key things about what we're doing with Iris is it is just a developer's tool. And that, I'm not saying that disparagingly of the tool, but specifically we noticed that a lot of the sites that we interacted with as a services company already had platforms, especially in Australia and New Zealand. Microsoft has a huge footprint, and there's lots of customers who've started with Excel and went to Power BI and then adopted Purview and Data Factory, and whether it's Snowflake or Synapse or even Databricks as their targets, they already had a lot of tools, and they already had skills in a lot of those tools, and didn't necessarily want to remove everything to put an end-to-end platform in place. So Iris has been designed to fit into that scenario and add Data Vault automation. We call it kind of an augmentation play, where we actually augment an existing platform with Data Vault automation. And so we have a very simple, lightweight integration process for interacting with the tools that and the processes that Iris doesn't deliver, and then just deliver Data Vault automation to that. So Iris is not a modeling tool. It actually requires you to have a modeling tool. We'd love to work with with ER Studio or any of the other modeling tools that exist out there. We require a customer to at least do their modeling, and we recommend that they do that in an enterprise modeling tool. The only requirement Iris has from that perspective is that it can export the metadata of the model, and then we just have a simple way to format that into the format that Iris expects. It will generate all the code, and it will then hand the code back to the main data platform so that can be implemented, and that's where we use that CI/CD process. So in that perspective, we are trying to augment existing platforms of any flavor. As long as they can schedule a stored procedure, we can provide Data Vault automation to that platform. Jumping on to the next slide, Alex. Well, that's a title slide, so we might jump to the next one. So conceptually, this is kind of what it looks like. So any of the grey brands around the outside, they're just examples. What we expect as inputs is some simple metadata around the source structure, some basic metadata around the target model, and mapping if you have it. Iris will either accept mapping or it'll allow you to draw the mapping in the UI, and from that it'll create all of the outputs you need to create the Data Vault structure and all the load code, the stored procedures. It also has a few other things like a wrapper for helping you to organize your scheduling, and lineage files and those sorts of things as well. But what it doesn't do is it doesn't do profiling, it doesn't do model design, it doesn't do ETL, it doesn't do your scheduling, it doesn't do your warehouse management. It is your developer's tool to provide Data Vault automation to the platform that you already have, if that site is already invested in other technologies that don't yet have Data Vault automation. So it's not a play for everyone. It's certainly trying to provide simplified and easy to use data vault automation, but it's really leaning into those sites that need to add that as a capability because they've invested in some other platform. Jump to the next. Obviously, down the bottom there too. Sorry, the target cloud data platforms are the Microsoft stack. So we do Synapse currently, and we'll be doing Fabric very shortly, Snowflake and Databricks. So one of the things about it is we will try and make it really easy for a customer to absorb and get approval for. So from a price perspective, we've made it a very attractive price, but we've also, because we don't need any part of Iris deployed into production, architectural sign-off and security sign-off, those sorts of things are actually quite easy to pass. It's a simple single Docker container that is the full deployment. So it's easy to download, it's easy to implement, it's easy to get started and get running. It's easy to access the training and the knowledge hub. And then obviously we think the price point as well makes it easy to acquire. So we'll step past that one. I think there's only one more slide, or is that the end of me? I think that might be the end of me.
I think that's it.
All right, over to you, Alex.
All right, thank you very much. So I guess before we jump into the actual demo itself, I'm just going to have a quick chat about, I guess, the data that we'll be looking at, add some context to what I'm about to do, and maybe with that then look at how we use Iris to build out the automation code. So the data set we're going to look at today is the cars data set, something you can find online pretty easily. But essentially, it's just a company that has a whole bunch of car dealerships all around the country. They sell cars through their dealers at one side. On the other side, once they've sold your car, they want to service that car as well. Two different kind of systems, data everywhere, the concept of customers therefore lying everywhere. And what we have here is your day-to-day typical kind of problem that you'll have on customer site. So that's what we're going to look at. We'll pick a small part of that to kind of demo the Iris tool. What I want to kind of reiterate here is something that Jules mentioned a moment ago. So Iris is not a modeling tool. So what we'll do is we'll sit down with the client as a part of services beforehand and kind of really help them go through their data, look at what they've got, pull out their business concepts, and really kind of start to build out a little bit of a conceptual model. And, following our example on the sales system side, we have our salesperson, our customer concepts. On the service side, again, we have our customer concept, registration and servicing, and probably loads of other source tables with various bits of information. And oftentimes we'll have to bring those customers together. We'll probably talk to the client around maybe building something around a business thought artifact or something like that. And in essence, we sit with them. They go through it, we sit with their SMEs, their data modelers, and we kickstart the project off building out a conceptual model. And from that, of course, then you'll look at your logical or physical model further down the line. Now with that, what does that mean with Iris? Well, let's quickly talk about the workflow. So you've got your model, you've maybe got a little one, you've just started things off. And in essence, you have a source and you got your target model. You know that you will have a single source table that will produce a certain part of your overall target model. So Iris works on a per source table manner. So you've got your source table, let's say it's some customer data, and you know that it gives you the hub and satellite part of your overall model. So in essence, you have the metadata that Iris requires. You have your source metadata around your source table. Your target metadata, you know that you're going to be producing a hub and a satellite in this example. And then you have the ability to source a target map, your three core metadata concepts. And with that, you hand that over to Iris, and Iris will automatically generate the code for you. What that means is it will generate your DDL, your table definitions. Your DML are stored procs that pull data in from your source table, add all the necessary metadata, the hashing, all the logic, and output that to your vault table. Once you've got your code, If we're looking at this as a data engineer, you probably want to deploy this locally, run your tests, make sure things look all right. It's doing what you want it to do. What Iris also does is it produces a ingest proc, a wrapper proc that helps you identify all the necessary procedures that you need to run in order to load your target model. So you run this orchestration stored proc, it'll trigger off all the necessary underlying procs and orchestrate a load from your source table to your target hub and satellite in this example. So at this point, once you're done, you're happy, you've tested everything, you check it into source control, you let your DevOps process kick in and release pipelines go and off it goes, and what you do as data engineer is rinse and repeat. Go back, grab another source table, and off you go again. Now, what I've kind of described here is how things work if you're a data engineer. What I want to quickly do is also kind of flip it on its head and look at it on the project perspective. What you have here on a project perspective is arguably a task on your board. You know that a source table or your Scrum Master project manager knows that, we want to deliver value quickly. We want to get this output out to the business quickly. That requires us to look at these 2-3 source tables. Each source table, this one that will build you a hub and a satellite. So you know that it takes, let's go with round numbers, a day to produce your code, test it properly, make sure everything looks right. What you've got is a way to estimate a task on your board. And that allows you to sprint plan really easily or much more efficiently. You can now look at your piece of, your sprint, and you can incorporate how long it'll take to get some value out to your business alongside your normal build of your platform and all the other work that you need to do. We're now trying to turn this into something that will work nicely with your project. And so, yep, that's kind of how that works. And hopefully I can now go to the demo itself. Let's stop sharing. There we go. Hopefully everyone can see my new screen, which is Iris. Perfect. So this is Iris. This is it. What we'll do is we'll go through very quickly what we're looking at. This is the home page. Starting at the bottom left here, we have projects. Projects is a Iris term for basically the work that you're doing. It allows you to save your work locally so that you can kind of come back to it if you need to pop away for lunch halfway through building something. And we'll store all those projects so that you can always kind of go back to any work that you've done previously. And then along the middle there, just some system data, the fact that you're connected, versions, and so forth. On the right, we have the interesting one. We're starting to roll out some trial licenses for people. It allows you to select a trial license, sign up, and then give you a fixed period of time to have a go with Iris. And then back to the left, here we go. This is our projects pick. As I build out a project or demo, a model build, it'll get populated in here and you can come back to work with it if you need to. Bit of a settings page. So on the settings page, it's at this part that you choose the target platform. And as Jules mentioned earlier, we have Snowflake, Synapse, and Databricks. And some of these are dependent on the platform that you're looking at. External storage fits around Databricks, allows us to write to external tables. You're also able to look at kind of change where your landing data sits. So in Snowflake, for example, you could stick another database in, you can stick your source data in another database and have Iris know that and read from that and then pull it into our Vault database elsewhere. And of course, if you're looking at the Databricks application, then it gives you the opportunity to define your catalogs as well so that it works seamlessly with the Unity catalog and so forth. But in our example, we're going to go with Snowflake. Now, as I mentioned a moment ago, Iris isn't a modeling tool. So what I have here is it It's ERD Lab. It's just a free online tool that I managed to find. Stuck my model in here. This is it. This is what, I guess your data models will go through. Source tables, the gray boxes at the top, and you've got all your various bits and pieces. The bit we're going to look at today specifically is a single source table, but that source table gives us 3 hubs, a link, and a satellite. That's the part that we are going to build. That's what the project manager wants. That's the value we want to send out to the business as soon as possible. So that's what we're going to do. What I also want to very quickly show everyone are the metadata files. And what I've got in how I'm going to show you guys is kind of through Excel. Our source metadata table. It's as simple as just all the metadata that you have around your source, the schema that it sits in, your table name, columns, column types, pretty basic. Probably a bit more interesting is your target metadata file. So in here, you'll have the model that I just showed you, our link, hubs, and a satellite. What those keys are within those target tables, the business keys, the link business keys, the options of using BKCC so we can pair them up to build our hash keys. The satellite, for example, and the relationships that the satellite has back to the link table. And of course, the link table and the relationship that has back to the hubs. Now, what I tend to do is take our source table, our model here. ERD Studio has the option of exporting out the metadata. So what I did was, to be totally honest with you, sat down with ChatGPT for an hour and created a Python script that just takes the metadata, exported out from ERD Lab, and creates the 3 metadata files that I require. Pretty simple, and that will run across most of the models that I have in my previous slide. So with that, let's give it a go. We are going to get started, add new project. I'd like to use the source table name so I know kind of where I'm starting my project from. Hit add project, and then up at the top here, we go through the 4 steps required to get the code out. So step 1, we're going to go find our source metadata, and let's make sure I am on the right one. Import that. Oh, that's because I've got all the files open.
I hadn't seen that error before.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Okay,
Demo
that again. There we go. Step 1 done. Step 2, we're going to take our target metadata and grab that as well. This time, I've closed the file, so that should hopefully work. And there we go. At this point, we've given Iris our source metadata and our target metadata. So at this point, it might be worth a quick check that everything looks all right. So you can kind of zoom in on it, and we've got my link table, the attributes that I've assigned to my link table, my customer business key, my BKCC values. Come down to the end over here, I've got my satellite. Just gives you a quick, process to quickly check what you've got looks right. At this point, does. So I'm going to go to my next step and import my mapping, source to mapping metadata. There we go. And again, at this point, we can quickly check that everything looks right. On the left, we've got our source. On the right, we've got our target. We'll just pull out one of them to look at, our link. And you can see as I produce a target, the attributes on the left, you've got these arrows that run across the screen to the right to show your mappings. Columns change from white to gray to show that they're mapped. And again, it gives you another opportunity to validate your model quickly. We've got all the other bits and pieces there. At that point, everything looks good, so we go next. And this is where the magic happens. At this point, we hit the generate button, and it goes off and generates the code. So this will kind of step through all the steps that Iris requires. and conveniently it's stopped at a good point here. Source on raw views. Iris produces a source on raw view, and it's a concept that we have where we look to create a view that reverse engineers your target back to its original landing table. And the point of that is it gives you a very quick way to check that what you've done works. You run your view, it pulls out your hub and link data, hub link satellite data, whatever it's, or in our example, hub links to satellites, and then it just re-engineers back to look exactly like your landing data and what's your landing table and what's in landing. So you can very quickly, as a data engineer, just, okay, this looks right, fine. It also, as an extra bit of code, it creates these views that actually, for anyone who's maybe new to Vault, and maybe even your data science team, people who may, while they're learning Vault, just need to look at the data quickly, they can use these views to look at your source data at a probably a little bit more of a easier to understand way while they're learning how to get up to speed with Vault. So that's quite handy. Some of our clients quite like that. We'll probably look at building a few more of those different views further on in our roadmap, but super handy. So something to think about, and we'll have a look at that in a second. And here we go. Perfect timing. Everything's done. I've got my code generated successfully, which we like to see. At the bottom right here, open up the link, and this just takes us to a temporary directory on your, in mine it's on this VM. And we have everything we need here. If I quickly go to the stored procs, got the schemas that everything's put into. I have my stored procs that load everything through. I have a little GST prefix there. That's the ghost record stored procs that load the ghost records into our target Vault objects. And then all the loading procedures for all the other target objects. So what we're going to do is let's deploy this to our target database, which in our example day will be Snowflake. So let me bring that back up. This is the table. These are the tables. So let's just do this by hand. Yeah. Run all those. Great, everything's done. Now let's load the stored procs. Right. Let's also do this quickly by hand. Now again, these are just simple stored procedures, DDL files. You know, you could, if you're developing locally, just run what you need to locally. And of course, as everyone's been talking about today, these are the objects you really want to push into your DevOps process and let your systems and your processes take care of deployment for you. So great, that's everything deployed. And what I have here, something I created earlier. Okay, so in order to get your data into your Vault objects, there are two things we want you to do. We've created a wrapper, an ingest procedure that loads the ghost procs to our target tables. So you want to run that first. Now this is there's a few smarts in here. It does check if this has been run before. Are the ghost records there? If they're already there, it won't add another, won't duplicate anything for you. So you can run this arguably as often as you need to. You're totally safe. The main one here is the ingest wrapper proc. So this will run in the correct order. All the procedures will take your data from landing and load, in our example here, your link, your hub, and your satellite. So we run that. This is the one that you want to orchestrate. Ooh, what have I done here? Oh, I know what I did. I accidentally put the wrong models in. Oh, that's my fault. I accidentally put the wrong metadata file in when I was building my target models. Oh, don't need that in a demo. Let me very quickly come to this one. And what we'll do is once you've run your ingest files and so forth, we go have a look at the data, and what you'll see is the link table that we're looking at here are ghost record and all the various hubs, hash keys, and everything that you would expect out of a Data Vault 2 compliant link. And then what I also want to show you guys very quickly is the view. And this is the source on raw view. This will take in this example, the link, the 3 hubs, the satellite, reverse engineer that back to look like the source table. Pretty handy to do some very quick testing, or like I said, if you hand it over to maybe a data scientist or somebody like that to go have a look at their source data, look at what they need. Pretty quick way to do that. So yeah, that's the process. That's how it works. Kind of what I'd like to do very quickly is just to kind of go back and reiterate where Iris sits in the whole process. You've got your source data on one side, you've got your data modeling team on the other. They go off and they'll model things out. They'll do it in their bits and pieces, and you want to get data out to the business, make it value driven as quick as possible. Pass your metadata to Iris. Iris will automate the generation code for you, and off to the races you go, and you build out your Vault and you load it with our ingest procs. What I also want to talk about is Business Vault. That often gets asked. And as far as Iris cares, it works like any other Data Vault artifact. Iris expects your data in a landing zone. Once your data's there, you know the models, it pushes out code. So in terms of Business Vault, you're taking your data from your raw Vault artifacts, your hubs, links, and satellites, and you write a query. And in our example, since we're using Snowflake, you write a Snowflake query that will take your business rule and land the results of that back into the landing zone, into a predefined table. What we'd suggest to our clients is to use 2 different schemas: a landing schema for data that comes from source, a landing _BRE schema that takes data that comes from business rules. The business rules enter in part of it. But once that's done, you're kind of doing the same thing again. You know that your table created by the output of your business rule will build a target hub, link, and satellite. You stick the metadata back into Iris, and out pops everything on the other end. And then you go through your process again. Very quickly, in terms of orchestration, I've got a simple example here of using Airflow, applying that to Snowflake and the ingest procs. And this is very simple. What we're going to do is load all your ghost procs first, just make sure the ghost records are applied to all your target objects. You can run that in parallel. When that's all done, we'll kick off the raw Vault load. When that's all done, we'll kick off the business rule that loads that store proc that we have that loads our landing _BRE landing table. And then we'll execute the final part of that and load our business Vault tables. So, as Jules mentioned earlier, as long as you can orchestrate the running of stored procedures, you're good to go. And in the same project that Jules mentioned earlier, I think what we did on that was to use ADF as our orchestration tool. And we built a control table that had all the various ingest procs that Iris had generated. Add to that a stage at which that process works, so be it raw Vault or business Vault or anything like that. And then you can therefore write a query, return the ingest procs that you need, pass it to ADF, let ADF loop through and run everything in parallel for you. Makes loading a Vault pretty quick, and as long as you can also run things in parallel, you're good to go. Final thoughts, I guess, for us. Currently, the models that we support, your standard hubs and links and reference hubs. Links are, again, your standard one. We also deal with same as and hierarchical links. On the satellite side, dependent child, multi-active, reference satellites. There are more models to come. It's on our roadmap this year to build more. We've actually got quite a few things coming this year, so keep an eye out. And then just to reiterate at the bottom there, we have our Iris Knowledge Hub. It's our online community, if you'd like, where we host training videos, how to use Iris, all the documentation around installation, and any tips and tricks that will help you, much like the Airflow example that I have there. I've written out something on our tips and tricks page just to help kickstart your journey if you need to, and there'll be more of that as we go along. And there we go. That's Iris.
Just a couple of I guess final thoughts is, obviously you've seen it's very different to the platform approaches, and often if we're talking to a customer and they ask for an end-to-end solution, we don't recommend Iris. But if we talk to a customer who's invested heavily in the Microsoft Azure Data Factory and all the components there, then this provides a good option for them. So we know that it's a bit different in its approach from that perspective, but it obviously makes it simple. And the idea here is to help people get to Data Vault very quickly, focus on their modeling, focus on their business rules execution, and kind of let this part of the process be very agile, very repetitive. To reiterate, we actually limit people to mapping a single source table to the model at a time. So you can do a very large model, but you're going to be very agile in the way that you build your code, because we want you to build what you need today, not everything. And I think Scott would probably appreciate that we're trying to help people be agile. But that's kind of the philosophy here, is to make things simpler, make it easier. We want the code generation part of the work around Data Vault to move down the value chain. Let the really experienced, smart guys focus on modeling and focus on business rules, and not focus on code development. And we're just trying to fit in with as many tools as possible, because at least in our market and the way that we've evolved this tool, we've seen that it's very hard to displace everything that's already there, that there's already too much inertia with certain tools. So we're trying to work with any modeling tool that the customer has already adopted, or any scheduling tool, or any data management platform. And so we will see more target systems come as well, but that's probably next year. As Alex said, we've got things like non-historized links and stuff still to bring in. So we built a lot of templates in version 1 of Iris, the larger platform play. And so this is version 2 of Iris, and this is where we've brought it down to this new UI and this new smaller package, and so we're just migrating all of that stuff across. And we have some really cool ideas around how to help people, in the knowledge transfer and developing their model as they go along. So, we'd love to talk to you. We think it's a good accelerator for new sites, or for consultancies that are trying to help customers who maybe have budget constraints to get started as well. So, so we think there's a space for it.
Thank you very
much. I think
much.
we answered a few questions too in the chat, but if there are any others, we'd love to answer them.
No, this
Thanks,
is
Ken.
Great tool, great presentation, and I have to say also, being like you said, that Microsoft stack just hits you just about everywhere you go, in a lot of different verticals and so forth as well. I think the biggest thing that we like is the simplicity of what you have there, and the kind of forcing that process, as you mentioned, of kind of the agile approach. What I'll be interested in also is, how far are you guys, from a roadmap perspective, how far are you looking to take the automation, like testing and maybe BI generation and so forth as well? How have you been handling that with the clients? Yeah.
So we have a number of templates for the various components of the modeling to kind of finish off, like the non-historized links. Pits and bridges will definitely be in the next iteration, or maybe the one after. But they're very high on the list. And And then we have some really cool ideas around how we want to map to hubs that are already in the production warehouse and things we can do to automate that, make that easier. Because we're doing it as a single source table at a time, it's quite easy for us to understand, what that potential model might be. And if Iris is told what hub it's mapping to, well, then that's even easier. So we think we can help people to kind of, have to do more complex modeling by exception. If things are going to be straightforward and it is to an existing hub, and you obviously know that things like the grain and everything are all correct, then push it in. So yeah, we've got some ideas from there. We also have on our consulting side, we have a number of frameworks we deploy around Iris. So we have an automated testing framework. The CI/CD framework that you saw in Nols's presentation is applied against Iris, but that's sort of they're more consulting assets. So obviously with partners that we're looking to partner with around Iris in different regions, we're happy to share those assets, but we're not really wanting to. I don't want to bloat Iris and make it more expensive. That's the problem, is the more we put in it, the more expensive it has to be. So we'd rather keep it lean and keep it agile, and then have some frameworks that can help address things like testing, or like orchestration, or or control framework. We have a control framework for ADF that will do the operational management of the warehouse. But we think it's a big advantage that you don't need to deploy any part of Iris into production. Makes it a lot easier to acquire as a piece of software if you don't have to get approval to put something new in production. So as I'm sure we all know. So so there is a balance from that perspective.
Right. Thank you.
I think someone asked about Business Vault as well. So basically, I think, as Alex was explaining, is if a business rule is run, we just expect that the results of that business rule are landed in a schema that we call BRE. If we're sourcing from BRE, Iris creates Business Vault tables rather than, obviously now it's just naming, but it'll create Business Vault rather than Raw Vault tables. So we support it from that point of view, but it's not a rules engine. It's definitely not an ETL tool. We're quite specific around what Iris isn't, so that we don't mislead anyone. We expect that someone brings a tool to run the business rule to the table, even if that's just them writing some SQL code.
That is specifically dealing with the potential complexity of business rules, could be literally anything. And so trying to build a tool that can do everything is not feasible. So we let the tools that are specialized at solving those problems solve the problems. The result is just more data. That comes back to that definition of information, right? The business rules can only produce data and nothing else. And so once the data is available, it's just like any other data. It's just more data that flows through into your data vault. And so that deals with it very elegantly, and it helps you to compartmentalize your problems so that you have an appropriate solution to whatever problem may be presented.
And we, as I said, we recommend the other sponsors that presented today. We recommend most of those tools when customers come to us and say we want an end-to-end platform. We're not recommending Iris, but when a customer says we already have invested in the AWS stack or the Microsoft stack or one of these other big enterprise platforms, and it doesn't have data vault automation, that's when Iris will step in and add some value, and deal with things like limitations on budget or maybe a brand new site that needs to be guided through it, and this simplifies that for them.
Hi everybody, Paul Kinnear here. I just want to say great presentation. I agree with the sort of less is more approach to creating that baseline of success for your implementation using the tool. I just wondered if the different types of hashing algorithms, were you able to control the actual statement itself? Whether, of course you could probably choose if it was MD5 or SHA or so on, but do you actually get to control the inner functions that are occurring, like the trimming and the coalescing and stuff like that, or do you have that sort of black box where, because it's a developer tool, I think I'm answering my question itself, that you kind of get to choose your own, right?
That's an Alex question for sure.
So when you say choose, I guess it depends on as a developer, what kind of detail you want to add to it. It systematically takes, let's say if we're talking about your hash diff, it takes the orders of the columns that you provide it.
Right.
Now we double pipe and coalesce with the word null. We are looking at being able to define that. I have to admit, no one so far has asked us to change that, but it is on our roadmap to be able to make that more customizable, along with choosing, as I'm sure as hashing algorithms change over time, the ability to kind of, I guess, change that as well. So that's definitely coming, and it'll be kind of what we want to build out is like a bit of a settings concept that then allows you, even though it's a developer tool, as new users, team members join and you get a version of that, you can kind of pass that project-wide settings to everyone. So you're always starting your build off the same way.
Yeah, I would totally recommend that as technologies improve over time and grow over time. We used to use RTrim, LTrim, and SQL Server solutions, right? And in a different technology, you would have a different function there. So for a developer tool, for the developer to have all of the onus, of course, you want to create that as a standard so that all users are adhering to that calculation. But the ability to choose what would be the best practice is just what I'm saying. There's such over the last 15 years, there's been so many different approaches. Many of the tools now are black boxing that approach, where it's just, is it MD5 or is it SHA? But the type of coalescing, trimming, and aggregating when it comes to things like composite business keys, these are all factors that you have to sort of think of when implementing this in real world scenarios.
We can even push the envelope. We can even push the envelope a little bit further down the line, and this is down the line from an IRS perspective. But what if you have a case-sensitive business key, a construct that's come through, and so on? So being able to manage the selective treatments inappropriate for an appropriate hash key outcome, etc. Those type of flexibilities not there yet, but it's certainly sort of pushing the envelope of what's typically available.
Right, exactly. That's the perfect example. We always used to uppercase everything, but there are scenarios where you have a different inputs and different scenarios. So cool.
I think we're finished, Cindy.
Okay.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you very much. It's very interesting, Nols. Great presentation. I love it when you present. It's like having you at the conference again. So always enjoyable. And Julian and Alex, thank you very much for the demo. Julian, when you and I talked like months ago, you walked us through it. So it was really cool to actually see the tool, as Alex presented it. So very, very nicely done. Thank you.
He does a lot better job demoing than I do.
I don't know. You said you're not technical, but you held your own on these questions, buddy. That's like, I don't know. I think you're pulling the wool over our shoulder. Okay, so all right, let me go back, and we're going to get to the prizes. We just went through Q&A, so I don't need to go through this slide again. All right, Mary Meek is going to present right, Mary? You're here to announce all of our winners?
Sure.
Okay.
Love to.
All right. Let me just jump over to the next slide for you.
Well, it's all right there, right? There's no guessing here.
Well, I think, sorry, I just,
Okay.
so
So for resultant, the winner is William Modica. And it's all Amazon from our great sponsors. Everybody seems to be giving $50 Amazon gift cards, except for Eon Collective, which is the Audible gift card. And so the winner of the Data Rebels is Prashant Patel. And for Eon Collectives, the Audible is David W. We don't know what that W stands for.
And
but
David, that will be a $50 Amazon gift card, just so you know. We need to update that.
Oh, it is?
okay.
Okay, so every sponsor is giving Amazon $50 gift cards. And then Warescape is Roxanne Collin. And Vault Speed, woo! We need Noel to be, not Noel's, Noel to give some good sound effects here. And let's see, we've got Vault Speed is Jennifer Merrick. Congratulations. And Seven Rivers is Clay Seifert. And ER Studio is Ayobami. And I worked with her at Edmonton Police Services. Congratulations.
Oh.
And let's see, we've got Data Vault Builder, Paul Zangaglia. And then the last one is, can't see it because I've got a little thing here. Oh, Scott Ambler. He was our presenter last time, and that's from De facto. So thank you so much for all our sponsorship and participation. No, thank you.
Well done, Noel. All right. Well, I want to thank everyone for being with us today. I especially want to thank our sponsors for your support. We couldn't do this without you. And obviously our presenters, our speaker, and our demo vendor. Thank you so much. Ignition on both ends there. Great job, and we really appreciate it. We are looking for, we're soliciting for presentations for the June 11th meetup. And so if you're interested as a vendor to do your demo, perhaps do a customer success story with the demo. And then if there's a topic that you'd like to present on, we've had a couple of things submitted, but I want to leave it open for everyone. Not that what hasn't been submitted is great, but it'll give us some other things to pull from going forward in the future as well. So please go ahead and email us and let us know what you're thinking and what you'd like to see. And thank you so much for being here with us. Oh, and by the way, one thing I did get out on our YouTube channel. We do have Scott's presentation from last quarter. It did take me a little bit of cleanup, Scott, because of our artist. So I had to get rid of a bunch of stuff. So hopefully it took me a little longer to edit that. But anyway, I will get this presentation out as well. And Julian, I'll get you a link, you and Nols and Alex, to the YouTube channel once the video's out, the recording's out, okay?
Cindy, did you mention the open board positions?
I did. And
anybody interested?
Yes, we got one person interested that pinged in. So we'll talk with her maybe this week or next week. I'll catch you guys up on that. But we're, 2 seats available. We'd love to have folks that are excited about Data Vault to come in and join us. That's what we're looking for.
What were the 2 seats again, Cindy?
Just 1 second. I will tell you.
Mm-hmm.
I'll volunteer my services.
I love it. It's great.
Anytime.
That is
sign your contract, Paul.
We're holding you to it.
Mm-hmm.
So we have the event planning seat and the technology services seat open. All right. So one has to do with building out our website. I have some other things I can talk about with the board about that. And then the other one is the event planning, which is basically a lot of the things I was doing not so well today are things that the event planner would be doing. So anyway.
Thank you, Cindy.
You're welcome.
for all the work you put into it.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks, Cindy.
My pleasure. My pleasure. So yeah, anybody interested, please just, drop your name in the hat. You've probably got plenty of emails from DVNAUG, so just reply to any one of us and let us know you're interested.
Great.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you, board members, as well, for putting this all together. Thank you.
Thank you to our guys down under.
Thank you.
It's good to see you.
We loved Iris. That was the first time I've seen it, and it gets you straight to the point what you need to do. It's awesome.
Thanks, Mary.
Bye.
All right.
You're talking
Take care,
to
everyone.
You're talking to the queen of mapping. So yeah.
Exactly.
All right.
All
Thank
right.
you all.
Bye. Bye-bye. Till next time.
See you later.